not far. Now, here's what happens in 550 BC. Astyages is going to send an army against his upstart grandson. So he's going to send an army against Cyrus. You can only have one ruler, you can't have two. And they're going to meet outside of the ancestral Persian capital of Pasargadae. This will be one of the capitals, one of the four capitals of Persia under Darius and his successor. So the armies of the Medes will meet under Astyages, will meet the armies of the Persians under Cyrus. So grandfather will face grandson on the battlefield. The majority of the Median troops defect to Cyrus. And Astyages is defeated and he's taken in chains before Cyrus. Now, generally speaking, war does not make people tender, and that includes familial relations. In normal circumstances, what Cyrus would do is he'd say, "Hello, grandfather, how are you today? Get me my sword. You know, I'm going to relieve your back mark above your neck." Instead of the traditional decapitation of a vanquished king, Astyages will be only stripped of his kingship. So he's not going to be killed by his grandson. And then what Cyrus will do is he's going to tell him, "I'm not going to kill you, but you know what? That's the good news. The bad news is your Median Empire now has a new ruler. One." Okay? So Cyrus is going to enter the Median capital of Ecbatana, which is one of the four capitals I wrote down. Ecbatana was the old Median capital. It's located right here because it's a modern-day Iranian city of Hamadan. Median officials and scribes were kept intact, and they worked alongside Persian counterparts. So where Medes were literate and many were in the administration, Cyrus makes use of it. Now, Cyrus is not going to stop. Remember, this is an empire. Empires, you keep building, you keep moving, you keep conquering. Cyrus is a warrior. Warriors fight battles. Okay? Cyrus is then going to move further west, and this time he's going to target the ancient adversary of Media, which is Lydia. And Lydia is located basically in what would be western Turkey. Now, Lydia is wealthy in gold, and it also fronts the Mediterranean Sea, which means that if Cyrus takes over Lydia, Cyrus is now going to have access to water transportation and trade. Why is that important? Figure it out. More trade, more money. More money, stronger empire. Okay? You know the old expression. Money talks, bullshit walks. Okay? So basically, if you have money, you can afford more troops, you could hire more administrators. A wealthy state is a powerful state. A poor state is a weak state. So this is an economic-based attack. Now, Cyrus is going to send envoys to the Ionian coast. That's the coast of Turkey that's part of Lydia. And the people that he's going to address are going to be Hellenes, Greeks. Okay? And he's going to urge them to revolt against the Lydian king. You don't have to know his name, it's Croesus.
He needs who?
He's going to basically ask the Hellenes, the Greeks who live under the Lydians, to rebel against the Lydians. Okay? That's what Cyrus wants. Why does he want that? It's obvious. a house divided falls easier, right? If Lydia has an insurrection on its hands, it's going to be involved in suppressing the revolt and have less men to fight Cyrus when he invades, right? If you keep your enemies busy with each other, they have less time for you. Strategy 101. To make it easier to take over Lydia, to create a distraction, and also to establish allies in the Lydian Empire. Okay, now why would he ask the Hellenes to basically? Okay, for any perceived political or trade advantage that Cyrus might promise him. He's not just going to say, do this for me as a favor. He's going to say, I'm going to give you some trade privileges. I'll give you some of the gold from the treasury and in Sardis, which is the capital of Lydia. Help me and I'll look out for you. I'll make it worth your while. No, there was not, because there were no Turks in the area. Believe it or not, and I don't fault you for this, because a lot of people don't know this, Samantha, but what we call modern-day Turkey, the Turks were not indigenous. This is named the lands of the Turks, but the Turks actually come from Central Asia. That's where they originate from. They migrated into what we call Turkey. The original Turks were people of Mongoloid stock. They look like modern Korean, Japanese, and Chinese. Okay? So there was no such thing back then. Okay? And it's okay if you don't know it, because, a lot of people don't. Because we're used to thinking of Turkey not as an Asian country per se, even though it's located in Asia. We think of it in many ways as being European, but it's actually a mix of a lot of different ethnicities. Okay? Now, what ends up basically happening is that Croesus is getting a little nervous about this, and you don't have to take this part down. Croesus himself wants to extend his control, and he wants to expand his state. So he's not afraid to go to war against Cyrus, and I'm going to tell you a very funny story which Herodotus relates, and you don't have to write this down. Before Croesus decides to go to battle against Cyrus, he's going to consult an oracle. An oracle is a clairvoyant, someone who sees the future. And he's going to go to the oracle and he's going to say, well, what will happen if I decide to attack Cyrus and fight him in war? She says to him, and it's a female, an empire will fall. And he says, great. However, she didn't specify which one. It was the Lydian Empire that will fall to Cyrus. And sure enough, in 547 BC, Croesus is actually going to march his troops into Median territory, and you're going to see the Battle of Pteria. The P is silent. You're going to see the Battle of Pteria, where Cyrus's forces will crush the Lydians. They say originally that the battle was inconclusive, and there's some disagreement about it. There are some people that believe that Croesus didn't get crushed in this battle. They believe he got crushed in a later battle, but he got crushed, period. Okay? Croesus would end up being spared, and Cyrus would use Croesus as an advisor. So that's another example of the magnanimity of Cyrus the Great. Now, the Greek cities of Ionia are going to turn away Cyrus's ambassadors. You see, the Greek cities of Ionia will turn away Cyrus's ambassadors. Remember I told you that Cyrus sent ambassadors to tell the Greeks to revolt against Lydia. Okay? They did not do so. And I think the Greeks were in the situation that the Filipinos were in when America kicked Spain out of the Philippines. The Filipinos expected America to come as liberators, not new occupiers. So the Greeks expected the Persians to come as liberators, not as occupiers. But Cyrus was not in the mood for that. And because the Greeks did not favorably respond to him, he's going to incorporate the Greeks in his empire. And I'm going to tell you how Cyrus felt about the Greeks. And he didn't like it. Okay? This is what Herodotus says Cyrus had thought about the Greeks. He saw them as dishonest and depraved. And the agora, is there anyone here who does not know what the agora is? Okay. The agora is a Greek marketplace. And Cyrus is said to have uttered that the agora is a place which is set apart for people to cheat each other under oath. He saw the Greeks. Cyrus saw the Greeks as prevaricators, as people that would be disingenuous, liars, insincere people. That's the way he saw them. The Greeks, of course, viewed the Persians in a different light too. Now I'm going to tell you that Herodotus has something of a prejudice against the Persians because the Persians would be the enemies of the Greeks. They'll fight wars. Okay? But I will tell you this. Herodotus and most of the priests did have a grudging respect for Rome. They knew that this was a cultured empire. And even though they referred to the Iranians, the Persians, as barbarians, it didn't mean what the term means now, an uncouth, unlettered, primitive, unsophisticated individual. Okay? It basically meant someone who didn't speak the Greek language, because everyone to the Greeks sounded like okay? Somebody who doesn't speak Greek. And that's what they listed the Persians as being. Now, Cyrus is then going to basically move into Bactria. Bactria is in what would be modern-day Afghanistan. And he's going to set his empire's boundary, his northern boundary, he's going to set it with fortresses on the Daria River. These are going to be the borders for what will be the northeastern part of his Persian Empire. It's pretty far. Okay, this is the Daria River. Look, if you talk about conquest from the Ionian coast to Afghanistan, that's several thousand miles right there. It's a large empire.
Can you repeat the name of the river, please?
Yes, the Daria River. S-Y-R, and the second word D-A-R-Y-A. Now, is that where he stops? No. Cyrus is going to turn his attention to Babylonia, because at this point the Persian Empire will almost surround Babylonia. Now, how is Babylonia doing? Why is it important? Why will Cyrus want it? Well, first of all, Babylonia has a large population. Babylonia has a large population of skilled and disciplined cultivators. It has a large population of skilled and disciplined cultivators and artisans whose labor will provide much tax revenue. This is going to make a large Persian bureaucracy. This is going to make a large Persian bureaucracy and elaborate court possible if Babylonia is conquered. This will make a large Persian bureaucracy and elaborate court possible if Babylonia is conquered. And it will make long distance trade. It will make long distance trade within the empire possible. Because look at it this way. Look where Babylon is. It would be located on the Euphrates River. Okay? It's a crossroads for trade with Egypt, trade going to the north, trade going to the east. This is an area you want because it's located very favorably for commerce, which means you can tax any type of caravans that go by there. Okay? So, which means it's about money. Now, here's the deal. After the victory over Assyria, Babylonia will burgeon economically because it controls the arteries of trade. Babylonia will control the arteries of trade into Arabia and west through Syria and Palestine. And west through Syria and Palestine. And there's something else about Babylonia that's very sophisticated and something that Cyrus would want and want badly. Babylonia has a large banking network.
A large banking what?
Banking network.
Yeah.
It's actually based, Erica, on temple treasuries. The temple treasuries functioned as banks with their donations, with the wealth that they would bring in, as well as the fact that merchants traded out of temples. Shirley? And Palestine. So you're going to have merchants that add wealth there. You're going to have temple treasuries which function as banking institutions. And Babylon itself is a bustling metropolis of 200,000 people, which back then is very large. And it's surrounded by massive brick walls, which means that if you're going to attack it, you better have good siege craft, because it's not going to be an easy nut to crack. However, I'm going to tell you what happens and what makes it very easy for Cyrus to take Babylon and do it peacefully. After Nebuchadnezzar dies in 562 BC, you're going to see a fellow named Nabonidus take over and rule Babylon.
When did he die? I'm sorry?
562. Nabonidus is going to anger the Babylonians. The reason why he's going to anger them is because he's going to be an absentee ruler. He will actually leave Babylon for 11 years on a military expedition to the Arabian Peninsula. Now you'd say, well, why is this annoying to people? It's annoying for these reasons. The king of Babylonia is also its high priest, which means he has to perform religious functions every year for the city to prosper, for it to flourish. The traditional god that the Babylonians worship and that the king will make sacrifices to is the god Marduk. Nabonidus neglects to make sacrifices to Marduk, and even worse, he supplants Marduk with another god, a moon god, who the people do not have an affinity with, and this god's name is Sin, Aside. So, after a small battle between the Persians and Babylon and the Babylonians near Opis, O-P-I-S, the Babylonians are going to open up their city to Cyrus. They don't like Nabonidus to begin with, and what Cyrus does is he tell the Babylonians, if you open your city gates to me, I will restore the worship of Marduk. They figure, you know what? This guy doesn't look like us, he doesn't sound like us, but if he's going to allow us to worship our major god, and this other fool is around gallivanting in Arabia for 11 years, we'll give our city to Cyrus.
Who's this king priest that for the 11 years? Is it one?
That's Nabonidus. Yes,
Oh, it is. He's the king priest.
that's correct. He's going to technically move from 562 to 539.
But he is. But you said that somebody else.
He's not going to give up the throne. He's going to just go on vacation, if you will, on a military expedition and leave Marduk without sacrifices for 11 years. Okay? The people do not like that. The reason why they want him there is he functions as priest. If he's not there for 11 years, he's not going to be able to perform sacrifices. If he doesn't perform sacrifices, this is going to cause Marduk to desert Babylon and lead them to enemies. Okay? Babylon.
With an O, a battle.
The battle was over. It's OPIS. OPIS. Okay? And let's go this way around, Alexandra. The people will open up their gates, and then Cyrus has his armies in there, and Cyrus established control. The way it works, Alexandra, is if you have swords and you have weapons, and Nabonidus can't contest Cyrus, then Cyrus is the new Lord and Master, and the people have decided to let him in. They liked his terms, so they'll follow him. Luis. Okay, now Tony. Yes, Tony.
Years of rule, 562 to
539. Okay, now, that's correct. Cyrus takes over Babylon in 539. I'm sorry? Oh, yeah. Of course, the rule was not a very happy one. It was seen as a kind of, I guess, absentee monarchical. I guess it's the best way to describe it, Elizabeth.
Now, for the 11 years that he was gone,
I'm sorry?
for the 11 years that he wasn't
Yes.
ruling, was anyone else trying to take that as a sort of advantage to take over?
The people that were really angry were the priests of the Marduk, and those are the people that Cyrus is going to win over. But they can't take power in their own name, because they're always afraid that in the event that the Marduk does return, he'll execute them as traitors. However, if they accept Cyrus and Nabonidus comes back, Nabonidus better figure out a way to get rid of Cyrus, and he's not going to do that with Cyrus's army. Okay? And yes, go ahead. The high priest remain the same. That's why people accept Cyrus. He's not going to muck up their religious structure. He's going to keep it intact. He's going to say, this king of yours is a heretic or whatever. Don't worry about it anymore. You accept me as king, you worship Marduk, and I'll preside over any type of priestly functions you need me to. Just let me know. I'm willing to do that for you because I like you accepting me differently.
But it kind of showed you what kind of society it was, because for 11 years he was gone and he was absent. But the banking industry still flourished during that time, right?
The banking industry will still flourish during that time. And of course, what Cyrus wants to do, which he does, is he tries to take Babylon peaceably. Because look at it this way, if he takes it by force, he could destroy the city. Why would you want to destroy a city that has banking and economic trade and has a population of people you can tax? They'll get killed in an outright assault. Would it not make more sense to win them over? I mean, you know, if you want to take over a place, you want to take over a ruin, or do you want to take over a bustling metropolis? This shows you that Cyrus is a thinking man. This is not an idiot. Okay? He's not going to basically go in there and just, wreak havoc. If he could get around it, he'll get around it. Yes. We'll talk about those later. And his beliefs it's hard to determine. What we will mention is the fact that he does give a high amount of religious tolerance to everyone, including Jews.
The writing on the wall.
Yeah. Nabonidus, the feast of Belshazzar. Belshazzar was the steward for Nabonidus.
Oh,
Okay, yeah, for the book of Daniel. Yeah, that was during the writing of the book of the Symbolic Man. It's basically against the wicked feast of Belshazzar was the steward for Nabonidus. Yes. This is the Achaemenid Persian Empire. Cyrus will call it that because it's going to name it after his ancestor, the Achaemenids. Okay, remember I put him on the board. And we have here the Achaemenid dynasty. That's what's going to rule Persia. Okay? And what's going to happen is, the fate of Nabonidus is not clear. As in some accounts he was executed, and some others he was sent into exile. So we don't really know for sure what happened. What we do know is this. Babylonia's former subjects will then hasten to declare their fealty to Cyrus. So Babylonia's former subjects will then hasten to declare their fealty to Cyrus, and in answering Janus's query, they do think of themselves as Babylonians, but they think of themselves as Babylonians being part of the Persian Empire, the Achaemenid Persian. Okay? Now, Cyrus will also inherit through Babylonia. He's going to inherit the rich maritime kingdoms of Phoenicia. Phoenicia is mostly located in modern-day Lebanon. And this is important because it's going to give Persia naval capabilities, because Phoenicia is on the Mediterranean coast. And once Persia gets naval capabilities, they now have a window on the Mediterranean from which to trade. Now, who are Cyrus's conquests done by? Cyrus's conquests were done by a majority of Iranian tribal warriors. However, his successors, the descendants of Cyrus, his successors would enlist troops from the subject population. Meaning you're going to take in Phoenician troops, you're going to take in Babylonian troops, you're going to take in Median troops, but the original warriors for Cyrus were Persian, okay? Now, here's how the Persians will rule under Cyrus. They demand a loyalty pledge and tribute. They demand a loyalty pledge and tribute. Tribute meaning taxes. But, the Persians are very tolerant of local institutions and customs. As long as you pledge them loyalty as far as to a nation state, God bless you. As long as you basically pledge loyalty to a nation state and you pay your taxes, the Persians will leave you alone. You worship who you want to worship. If you want to worship Moloch, you worship him. If you want to worship Marduk, you worship him. You want to basically be a Zoroastrian, fine. You want to be a Jew, fine. That's okay. Whatever you believe in, he will leave you alone. Kenny. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that later. It's a little complicated. Yes and no. Okay, I have to give you the quasi-pregnant things. Okay, and we'll talk about that later for reasons I'll get into. Marcella and then Hamla.
So the conquest was done by who?
By Persian troops originally. Later on, the successors of Cyrus will incorporate local troops in their army. Okay? Now, Pamela, you had another question.
I just was curious, how was he educated when he was younger?
Formally, as far as what you're getting now, a university training, no. But he was educated the way that Herodotus explained most Persians were. They knew how to ride a horse, shoot a bow, and tell the truth. Cyrus didn't need a college degree to be a clever man. There are people that get college degrees that basically have no common sense. Okay? And I can attest to that. Okay? Basically, there are people that are formally educated that sometimes do very stupid things. You get some people who don't have a formal education. They're very clever. Cyrus didn't have a formal education, but this was a man who was a thinking man. He was clever. He had what you call social intelligence and common sense. And when you combine that with martial capabilities, the results were formidable. A multi-ethnic polyglot empire, the likes of which the Middle East had not seen before. And we're going to talk more about that empire when I see you next week. Good job, everyone.